Thinking about moving to South Florida? Many folks do. You want to know what you should know before moving to South Florida? Some of the questions you need to ask? Well, stick around and we'll give you those questions and we'll also give you the answers.
Well, in this video, we're going to talk about some of the frequently asked questions and things that our clients and friends have asked us about living in South Florida. If you're interested in those questions, stick around to the end.
Hi, I'm Kev.
And I'm Suze.
And welcome to Living in Fort Lauderdale with Kev and Suze. So we're local realtors, and as much as we love doing the videos, and we do.
And we're learning and having fun doing this.
We love helping folks with their decisions on whether to relocate down here to South Florida, whether they want to buy or sell or whatever. So let's get going, Suze. So let's talk about some of the frequently asked questions and let's give them some answers.
All right, sounds good. One of the questions that we hear frequently is the traffic really that bad in South Florida? What do you think, Kev?
Well, unfortunately, as the one that does most of the driving and everything else, driving all over the place, I have to say, yeah, it is. But you know what, Suze? Not for the reasons that most people think, okay? The biggest challenge with the traffic down here is that they're trying to expand the infrastructure so that they can accommodate more people, because there are more people coming down, at the same time that people are trying to use it. So remember when we lived up in Georgia, they would have periods of time where they would basically shut down lanes at late at night and do stuff like that. They don't really do that down here. So it's kind of like trying to build a plane while you're heading down the runway. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason is that, you know, with the weather that comes down here and all the great weather we do have those couple of months, and we'll talk about it later, kind of the hurricanes and everything else. So when adverse weather does come through, it can play havoc on some of the streets down here and stuff like that. But probably the single most significant reason is that depending upon the time of the year, the on-season or the off-season, and those of you that have heard us before in our videos talk about the on-season, the high season is between October and May. The population down here, it doubles and sometimes triples.
Yeah,
so
no kidding. It really, truly does.
So what ends up happening is that you have so many people coming down here that you really don't even get an opportunity to work on the roads. Ironically, one of the folks who recently moved here from the West Coast out in Oregon actually told me that basically what he thinks it is, nobody's really from around here. So what ends up happening is you have people that are from all over the place and they drive the way that they drive wherever they came from, and there's really not a good job of kind of melding or molding it in. So you have folks that come from New York, folks that come from LA, folks that come from Central and South America, folks that come from Europe.
You've got people coming from Kansas and even Ohio.
So, and they come from all over the place, and basically they have their way of driving, and that's the way it is, and kind of that's the way it is. So Suze, yes, unfortunately, the traffic really is that bad down here.
Well, and the other thing is they lay on the horns constantly. I mean, you can be at a stop sign and you're not going anywhere, and as soon as it turns, if you do not have your foot on the gas, somebody's going to be blowing a horn.
That's true. That's
or they'll
true.
blow a horn because they want to cut in front of you.
That's true.
Okay, the next question is there really that many tourists? Well, is there really that many tourists? Let's explain.
So, yeah, actually, there are. There are a lot of tourists down here. Florida's probably second only to California in the number of tourists that come down through here, and with the possible exception of those that are heading out to that people trap built by a mouse called Disney World.
Well, yeah, and you have Universal, and you've got Busch Gardens.
Right, but South Florida, for the most part, is probably the most popular tourist destination here, and for a couple of reasons. Not the least of which is, if you look around our video, you'll see it's the middle of March, where most of you are kind of wondering whether it's going to break freezing above the Mason-Dixon line. Okay, we're sitting here in the mid-80s in March with short sleeves and short pants on. So that's the number one reason.
That's true, and let's face it, it's spring break, so you've got a lot of people coming here for spring break. There's many activities to do.
Yeah, so basically there is a lot of tourists that come down here. And a lot of people come down here, and contrary to a lot of other places where they're going for a weekend or for a week, a lot of folks come down here, they'll be down here for a month. They'll be down here for 6 weeks. So it's not as if you're coming in for a weekend and going out for a weekend. It's basically you're going to be down here for some period of time. So yeah, so yes, there are a lot of tourists that come down here, but South Florida specifically, its economy derives a lot of its revenue, and a lot of its economy comes from the tourism industry. Not all of it, because we're seeing an increase in healthcare and financial services and technology, but still, tourism is probably the single most significant chunk of our economy down here. So,
Are most people here that live in South Florida, are they retirees?
That used to be like that. I remember when my grandparents had retired down to basically St. Petersburg, and my other grandparents retired down to Fort Lauderdale. And when I was a kid, I can remember coming down here and visiting them in the wintertime, and it was great. I would much rather be down here shoveling sand on the beach than shoveling about 3 or 4 inches of partly cloudy off the driveway. But yeah,
in other words, you mean the snow.
Exactly. So, but essentially, what we're seeing now is that there are a lot of opportunities for retirees to come down here, and they've been coming down here for decades and for generations. But no, what we're seeing now over the last probably 10 to 15 years is a huge shift in the demographics of folks that are coming down here. You have some of the little bedroom communities, such as Margate and Tamarack, which are putting a huge focus on family life and family values to bring families down here. You have areas such as Boynton Beach and Delray Beach that are also wanting to maintain that kind of the beach town, so they have the young and the old that come down here. But there's also a lot of industry coming in here and a lot of business that comes in here that are attracting folks that are looking just for a little bit different lifestyle. They're not quite ready to retire, but maybe they're thinking about it in a few years or whatever. So check out one of our videos before on Deerfield Beach. Is it a great place to retire? You can get some information on that, who's retiring and what the options are. But even if you're not ready to retire, if you just want to kind of take advantage of some great weather, some beautiful weather, a lot of things to do. As I said before, I read somewhere, I'm trying to think of where it was, we get about 8,000 hours of sunlight every year. Now, last time I checked, that comes out to almost 8 hours a day. So, that's a lot of sunlight getting out there, and with temperatures that are...
Or a small rain shower once in a while.
This is true, yeah. But with temperatures that may be in the mid to high 60s in the winter and in the high 80s, low 90s in the summer, it's kind of a great place to be and kind of a great thing to do. So yeah. So but no, it's not. South Florida is not just for retirees anymore. It's for just anybody who wants to enjoy a healthy outdoor lifestyle and make a change and just kind of enjoy yourself.
Okay, one of the questions is, what is this about sinkholes?
It's funny you ask about that. I was reading about this a couple days ago on the internet. I was kind of thinking about it myself, kind of what causes it, how does it happen? Well, for those of you that don't know, basically the majority of the ground here in South Florida is made up of 3 things. It's made up of limestone, which is very, very porous. It's made up of coral, which is basically dead fossils.
Right.
Okay, and it's also made up of what they call carbonate stone, okay, which is also very, very porous. And what happens is that over time, because of the porosity, basically the ability of the surrounding area to absorb the water and let the water soak through, sometimes dries out a little bit and becomes a little bit crumbly. The other thing is that the way that we get water here in South Florida is through basically the underground aquifers, and those are big pools, big lakes of water. Think underground lakes, like any of you that have seen Journey to the Center of the Earth, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the center of the earth.
But any of those underground lakes that basically, have all this fresh water in there, and what happens is that when you draw water from that too quick and everything dries out, basically things start to crumble. Now, there's really no reason why or wherefore as to why the sinkholes happen and where they happen, but they do happen, and they do happen not with a whole lot of frequency and not nearly with the frequency at which we get the hurricanes and the bad storms coming through here. But it's a good question, Suze, because people have asked about it, and I had to go back out and do a little bit of research so that I could figure out A, what porosity meant, and B, what carbonate stone was.
Okay, so is there one area that has more sinkholes than another?
Yeah, actually the areas, if you take a look around, it's probably the middle portion of South Florida here. I would say probably, for those of you that are looking at a map, it's the areas that are basically west of 95, going out towards the Everglades, because the Everglades being a swamp, and there's up until recently there was a huge land reclamation effort that went on that basically tried to suck water out of the swamp so they could build more homes. So so down around that area is kind of the big area. There's a couple.
That makes sense.
There's a couple areas going a little further north, going up and towards Orlando and stuff like that, where basically the same things have been done.
Now, however, if you have a concern and you're looking at purchasing some property or whatever, just reach out, give us a ring, and we'll help you with that.
We'll definitely let you know. We kind of look at it from the same perspective as looking at flood zones, which actually, while not the same thing as a sinkhole, as actually something that somebody else asked about that just reminded me as I was kind of pondering everything. So basically, what is a flood zone? And a flood zone is basically an area that, depending upon it, an average over a certain number of years, be it 25 years, 50 years, 100 years, or 500 years, those are pretty much the common delineations that FEMA uses. It is the possibility and propensity for it to flood. Now, the reason that's important is because if you're in an area that has that and it's less than a 500-year flood zone, you may be required to get flood insurance if you buy property down here, or if you park on the side of the road. Okay, you may come out one morning and find out that that basically you're going to swim out to your car instead of walk. So yeah, so you need to look at that, check out the flood zones, and again, as Sue said, you know, if you have any questions about it, definitely let us know. It's something that we've become very, very familiar with, something we deal with all the time, especially when we're looking at beachfront property for clients that are coming in and those that are from out of town.
Okay.
So good question, Suze.
Okay, does South Florida really have that many hurricanes?
You know, if you'd had asked me this question 5 years ago, you know, I probably would have said, oh my God, yeah, it does. Especially because one of the first, you know, within a year of us moving down here, we ran into Hurricane Irma. Now, Hurricane Irma, for those of you that remember, basically came shooting across the South Atlantic, okay, and everybody here in South Florida, from basically the Homestead all the way up to West Palm Beach, we are bracing to get whacked, okay? And much like everything else that goes on, it's unpredictable. The weather itself was unpredictable, and basically, fortunately, we didn't, but unfortunately, the Keys got smacked, and it swung around and smacked up all of our neighbors and friends over on the west coast of Florida, around Naples, Fort Myer, Punta Gorda got hit, and then it took off into the Keys and took off into the Gulf and did a lot of other things. But I kind of digress.
One of the other questions that we get a lot is, like, how do you prepare for a hurricane if you're maybe not a native?
So yeah, so basically, Florida has designated the months of June 1st through November 30th as hurricane season. That's basically when the storms themselves historically are the most active. And more often, we see the majority of them come through in the August and September timeframe. And there's a lot of things that you can do that kind of help out with that. Number one is make sure that wherever you are, okay, that you're at a good elevation. And if you are east of what we call Federal Highway, and for those of you that are from out of state, basically it's Route 1. It's that same little road that runs from Canada all the way down to Key West.
Right.
Everything east of Federal Highway, when there's a hurricane evacuation warning, you either got to take off and evacuate or be prepared to not receive any services. Now, what I mean by that is if you call 911 or you call somebody, they're not coming. They're going to let you know that basically it's time to go, and you didn't go, so they're not going to come. Now, there are all kinds of things you can do. There's hurricane impact windows you can put on your homes. There's hurricane shutters you can put up. There's accordion shutters you can put up. There's sandbags you can do. But the best thing that you can do is basically be aware of it and plan for it. Now, I said this before and I'll say it again. It never ceases to amaze me and surprise me that regardless of where you are in the country, now I've lived everywhere from New Jersey to Virginia to Florida to Georgia, been all over the world in a previous life. It doesn't matter where you are. If there's a storm coming, everybody runs to the grocery store and gets what? Milk, bread, eggs, and toilet paper. It could be a blizzard.
And water.
Well, no, they don't even get water. There's tons of water. It could be a blizzard. It could be a sandstorm. It could be anything. It could be a hurricane. Those four things are gone first. So, yes, but yeah, you need to be aware of it, okay? And Florida has done a wonderful job over the past 10 years of making sure that they make everybody aware of what's going on and what's happening. So yes, I would say definitely that's a good question to ask. It does raise some concerns, some of our folks from out of state and from out of the area.
Okay, another question is South Florida really as expensive to live in?
You know, it's funny because my perception of living here in South Florida is that basically you really had to be a millionaire to live in paradise. And I was kind of always hoping when I was younger that I could hit the lottery and get enough money to come and move down here. But,
you and everybody else, right?
Yeah, me and everybody else. But one of the things I realized when we moved down here is that there are a couple of things that makes Florida, and South Florida in particular, a bit more affordable. Number one is that Florida has no state income tax. Yep, you heard that right. no state income tax. It's one of the 7 states in the country that don't have a state income tax. That's almost kind of like getting a pay raise. In fact, one of our friends that moved from New York told me that that he's a high net worth individual, so I'm not going to say his name, but basically for him to move to Florida and become Florida's principal residence, he was saving upwards of $100,000 a year in state income taxes. So New York, as everybody knows, is very, very high taxes, as is California, especially Los Angeles. But there's no state income taxes here, so it is a very affordable place to live. The other thing is that Florida, South Florida especially, the area that I'm talking about is the 3 counties, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. It's about a 120-mile stretch along the east coast of Florida, southeast Florida. It's basically called the Treasure Coast, or the Gold Coast. The reason they call it that is because it has the gross national product of those 3 counties is about $365 to $400 billion. Now, to put that in perspective, that's bigger than some countries like Chile and Israel and a couple other countries. I think even Taiwan isn't quite that high yet. So there's a lot of things going on down here. There's low unemployment. There's very, very strong economy down here. If you're looking for a job, come on down. There are jobs to be had down here, not just in the tourism industry, as we mentioned.
And the area's open and has been.
Oh, yeah. And we've seen a lot of that based upon the changes in people's tastes as far as what they want to do during the pandemic. So a lot of folks who are able to work remotely have made the trip down here just to kind of, take advantage of things, and they found out that, hey, it's a great place to be. It's not as expensive as I thought. Okay, so I'm going to kind of hang out down here. Now, that all being said, you got to kind of take the good with the bad. Florida does have a little bit higher state taxes than some of the other areas, and it's certainly not as cheap as living in Oregon, or I think it's Montana, and Delaware. None of those have state sales tax, but our sales tax is probably about number 6, between 6 and 10, all the states. So it's a little bit higher than some, but not nearly as high as other ones. I think last time I checked, this total state and local tax, you pay about 7%. Now, that's not across the board. Some of the stuff is not taxable. A lot of groceries aren't taxable. Medical expenses, medical supplies aren't taxable. But it is an affordable place to live. Now, fair warning, especially with the way the real estate market has been recently, the most expensive aspect of living down here is going to be your housing. Okay, but what you see coming down here is you'll see an appreciation in your housing values very, very quickly. The other thing that's going to cost a little bit more down here is food and groceries, okay? And it's just because there are some inherent taxes that go in there. Now, I read somewhere that Florida has the highest tax on internet and cell phones of any state in the country, and the tax that was being charged now for gas isn't exactly on the low end. But on the flip side, given to this great weather out here and also to some of the fantastic healthcare facilities down here, the cost of healthcare and the cost of basically, some of the miscellaneous costs are actually lower than the national average. So all in all, no, Florida is not outrageous. South Florida is not outrageous cost of living to live here.
Okay.
Just like anything else, do your homework, make sure that it's what you're looking for, make sure that you can get what you're looking to get, and I think you'll find it's very, very reasonable overall.
Right, and one offsets another.
True, very true, Suze.
One of the number one questions we hear all the time, how are the schools in Florida?
It's almost like a catch-22, because depending upon who you ask, okay, you ask 5 people, you get 5 different answers. What we've been told is that there are some very, very good schools here in South Florida, and there are some also not so good schools. A couple of the areas that are very good are some of the areas up in Boca. I believe Spanish River, I heard, is a very, very good school district. Some of the other ones may not be good, but one of the things that Florida has, I think, that really surprised me is they have these schools called charter schools and called magnet schools. Now, when I was a kid, back when we were using slate and chisel to do our homework, we didn't have magnet schools, we didn't have charter schools, but we did have, basically the public schools. So with the charter schools and the magnet schools as an option, you can see a lot of good options for basically all types of education needs. The other thing is that I noticed
they also have those baccalaureate.
Oh, that's right, the international baccalaureates. The other thing I found out in talking to some folks, some friends of ours from New York, is that even the private schools down here and the private universities are far cheaper than those up in New York and out in Los Angeles. So, and that just not coincidentally is where we seem to be getting the most of the folks coming here from New York on the East Coast. We're getting a lot of folks coming in here from LA.
Well, and you're getting a lot from Massachusetts and some from Vermont now.
That's
and
true.
Obviously a lot from Canada. So but with the lifestyle, you can understand why.
Definitely. So the short answer is there are some very good schools, and there are some schools that can present a little bit of a challenge. You can use a little bit of a help. But again, give us a call if you've got any questions. We'll be happy to help out, happy to point you in our direction. And there's all kinds of great stuff on talking to when you go out and have a conversation with Mr. Google.
Another question is there more things to do than just go to the beach?
Actually, it's funny that question was asked, because when we first moved down here, we thought we were going to be going to the beach every single weekend. And for the first couple of months we were down here, we did. Okay. After a while, we started finding other things that were going on, other things that we saw going out. So yeah, the short answer is yes, there's a lot more things to do other than the beach. Now, that's not to do anything to discount the world-class beaches or world-famous beaches we have down here. Everything from South Beach, which everybody's heard about, and Miami Beach, going up to Deerfield Beach, which is a certified Blue Wave beach, going up to Pompano Beach, out to Pompano Beach, going up to some of the beautiful beaches up in Palm Beach County like Boca, Boynton Beach, Delray Beach. But yeah, there's a lot of other things to do. Here in South Florida, there's all kinds of great things you can do. I mean, some of it's beach related, scuba diving, snorkeling, kayaking, wind skiing and windsurfing and stuff like that.
And fishing.
Oh, definitely. Well, it's this place down here. If you like fishing, especially deep sea fishing, this is a mecca for deep sea fishing. You can basically go out at any point, from any point along the 120-mile stretch of South Florida, and you can be out to where there are some great fishing spots within an hour, and you can catch your fill and be back in time for dinner. Leave right after breakfast, catch your fill, be back in time for dinner. And in most places now, they'll set it up so that they'll actually clean it and wrap it for you, so you basically can take it home in time to cook for dinner.
Well, that's true. And a couple of the other activities that are very popular is tennis. A lot of famous tennis players that come from this particular area.
Good point.
And all over Florida.
Point. Victoria Park is home to Chrissy Everett Lloyd, so and there's a lot of stuff down there. The other thing is that golf is huge. Now,
I was going to say golf.
Yeah, I'll mention golf, but then again, I mention it with kind of a smile and a smirk on my face, because those of you that have seen me attempt to play golf know exactly what I'm talking about. And to my kids out there, stop laughing. Stop laughing now. I'll hurt you when I see you. No, in all seriousness, I try to play golf. Basically, to me, what it is that I run around with a beer in one hand and the club in the other, chasing a little white ball. I think of it as basically playing polo on 2 feet. So, but yeah, golf is huge down here. There's also a lot of other things. I'm a huge sports fan. So coming down here, you have the Miami Marlins, you have the Miami Dolphins, the Florida Panthers hockey team. And for those of you like me that follow college sports, the University of Miami Hurricanes, not the only hurricane in town.
You also have a lot of professional players that have come from South Florida.
True, you have a lot of those little sports academies that basically churn people out. So you see a lot of that coming down there too. So they have those, and there are a lot of things that are going on down here. There's all kinds of cultural activities. There's some great museums down here. There are some wonderful old homes and old areas that have been built up. Go check out Cooley Hammock. Go check out some of those areas down there where there's some wonderful old homes and stuff like that.
Another frequently asked question is, so I'm thinking about moving to Florida. Which is better for me? Should I move into a single family home, a townhome, a villa, a condo? What are the pros and cons? Which is best, and which would be more affordable?
Well, you know what, Susan, that brings up a good point. So we get a lot of folks asking us out. The other thing they want to ask about is, what's this about Airbnb and VRBO?
Oh yeah, that's another one.
So basically, I'll try to bring everything together, and I'll try to keep it short and somewhat sweet. So as far as what type of property you should be looking at, be it single family home, townhome, villa, or condos, let's talk a little bit about those. Single family home, everybody knows what that is. Okay, basically it's a house sitting on a lot. Okay, villas are kind of a scaled down single family home, and you may or may not be adjoined with somebody else. And the benefit to that is you kind of share in some of the maintenance expense. Single family home, basically you're on your own. You got to repair your roof. You cut your grass. You cut your grass. Now you can get folks to come around and do it, but you're responsible for it.
So what's the difference between a 55 and older community?
Yeah, 55 and older communities basically, as a result of an act called Housing for Older Persons Act, 55 and older are communities that basically, not only do they not discriminate against people over 55, but they actually have bylaws and codicils and whatnot to make sure that that you have to be over 55 to live there. And they're looking to basically make sure that people are not getting a raw deal on a property. They're usually very, very well maintained, very, very well managed. But anyhow, so, and those over 55, they can be anything from condos, which everybody knows what a condo is, to villas, to single-family homes. Now, one of the things that people have been asking about lately is our VRBO and Airbnb. Now, VRBO is basically vacation rental by owner, and Airbnb is basically the same game, the same tune by another name. So, but here's the challenge down here. Florida, for so long, having gathered most of its revenue coming from the hospitality industry, charges a hospitality tax. And certain areas to do that are zoned. Those are certain areas that are called short-term rentals, STR for short. Okay, and what those really are rentals. They allow people to rent for less than 30 days. Most condo associations, homeowner associations, or anything else, especially most zoning, is around, they limit the number of rentals per year, or they limit the length of time that you can rent, usually by shortening it. Now, are there people who don't care about that? Yes, there are. Are there challenges in doing that? Yes, there are. Are there penalties and damages for getting caught? You bet your butt there are. So, and those penalties and damages could be as much as basically being kicked out of the community. Funds that go through and do that are sometimes exponentially greater than whatever short-term revenue you're going to gather from there. And then there are places that are specifically zoned for that. If that's something that you folks are interested in, we actually have a couple of folks that are coming down one's coming down from Kansas City, another group is coming down from Massachusetts that are interested in looking at short-term rentals, and we're going to get some things set up for them to go take a look at. That's a whole different thing for a whole different video.
If you're interested,
let us know.
Yeah,
let us know. But basically, whatever's best for you is kind of really what do you want to do with your spare time?
Right, and if it's if you're going to be living here full time, or if it's a second family home. And also, you need to look at your budget. True,
because basically whatever it is that you want to do or don't want to do, you can always pay somebody to do it, okay? But what you want to make sure of is that it fits into whatever lifestyle that you're going to do. So if you have any questions about it, please feel free to let us know. Drop a little note in the box below. We'll get back to you straight away. So yeah, so there's a lot of places down there. Now the other thing that I thought was kind of cool is, and Suze, you reminded me about this a couple of days ago. And
what was that?
That was about I mentioned kind of about hockey and stuff like that. And you mentioned the fact that we hadn't been out to check out the Panthers Den, which is basically a huge ice rink out in western Coral Springs. Now, if somebody told me that I could go to the beach and basically sweat my brains out during the day, okay, and then go in the afternoon and go jump and go ice skating and stuff like that, I'd have thought you were nuts.
Well, they also have local teams for the kids.
This is true.
And those training to become, with the ice skating. Yeah.
So, and then the other thing is that there's a couple of things that are going on. Most of you have probably heard about Hard Rock. Well, the Hard Rock, the casino, underwent a multi-million-dollar, multi-year renovation. It's called, basically they refer to it as the Guitar Hotel. And on a clear night, basically from anywhere in South Florida, almost anywhere in South Florida, you can see the hotel and most definitely see the lasers that go up in the air that make up the strings on the neck of the guitar. So that's kind of cool. And then most recently, there is going to be a big multi-year, multi-million-dollar renovation of the Isles Casino. Now, this used to be a harness racetrack and a small casino. Caesar stepped in and took over the casino, and they're going to double the size of the casino. They're going to put in some a lot of more parking. They're going to add a bunch of rental properties, and even condos that you can buy that are going to be luxury condos. So, and rumor has it there's going to be this 5-acre crystal clear lake that you can swim in, and they're also going to be able to have fish and some other kind of marine life in. Now, I'm kind of really psyched to see what's going on there. But again, there's all kinds of things you can do down here.
That's not the only area. Coconut Creek has a big casino as well.
That's true.
Great steakhouse there.
And we can't forget about the Butterfly World at Coconut Creek. It's the largest indoor butterfly park in the world. At last time I heard, there was like 60 million butterflies inside this place. Just walking through, and it's like super relaxing and super cool. So check out our videos on Coconut Creek to get more on the Butterfly World in Coconut Creek. But again, Suze, there's a ton of things to do down here, more than just going to the beach. But then again, when all of your friends up north are basically freezing their cayubes off in January and February, there's nothing better than sending somebody a text from the beach as you're going out there laying out and basically saying, oh no, I've got to put some more
sunscreen
on before I catch a burn. Get it? Catch a burn?
What about public transportation? What is available in this particular area?
Public transportation, coming from Northeast Georgia, where basically you had MARTA and you had a bunch of buses and everything else. I'm going to kick Uber and Lyft out of this for a second. Public public transportation down here is a little on the wanting side. You have a train system that runs basically from Miami Airport all the way up to West Palm, which is great, but there's not a whole lot of stops that are off track. So if you're going from Pompano Beach, or you're going from Fort Lauderdale, or from Boca, or someplace close to the tracks down to the airport, it's a good deal. Okay, they have a bus system down here, and we've seen, it's BCT, Broward County Transit, but they've run into some challenges lately, and they're not running as frequently as they do. One of the most coolest things, though, about public transportation, or quasi-public transportation, if you will, is when you get into some of the beachy areas, like around Lauderdale by the Sea, or Pompano Beach, or even Fort Lauderdale Beach. There are a lot of folks that are a lot of kind of entrepreneurs who have taken upon themselves to have 6- and 8-seat golf carts. And for a couple of bucks, they'll pick you up and they'll take you from place to place, bar to bar, whatever you want to do. And it beats the heck out of driving around and getting a DUI. But it also makes it a whole lot easier to get around, because basically you can let those folks do the driving. You can sit back and sip your favorite adult beverage and check in the scenes and the sights.
Well, another thing is the water taxi. That's another.
That's true. You know what? That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. They have this very cool thing called the water taxi. Now, this is probably one of the greatest inventions probably since tequila. And what it is basically up and down the Intercoastal Waterway, everywhere from Hollywood going all the way up to Deerfield Beach. You basically ride this boat that and there's somebody telling you about all the cool things that are going on. You get to see all this great and neat information, these great and neat places. You get to see where the beautiful people live, and you can do it all while watching it and catching some rays and watching it from the water. It gives you a whole different perspective, rather than just driving down the road and seeing the houses where people are basically hiding behind bushes and shrubs and stuff.
And if you've got a guide, he will describe the property, tell you a little bit about the details. Also, with the water taxi, there's a variety of different boats. You can get on and off as many stops as you wish throughout the day.
Definitely, that's a good point. That's a very good point, Suze.
A lot of people ask, how fresh is the seafood? Where do you get the seafood?
Oh my goodness, how can we forget about that? It's something we get basically every week. Now, I'll tell you, the seafood down here, there's seafood markets. Now, nothing beats going out and catching it yourself. But then again, I mean, I haven't really gone out and caught any mahi in a long time. That would be like never. But there are a lot of specific seafood markets that go out there. But even the local supermarkets like Publix, you can go in there. We got some very tasty mahi not too long ago. I saw a wild caught shark that was there.
You got the fish peddler.
You got the fish peddler. You got the fish market. You got Papa's Fish Market. There's all kinds of great places.
Oh, and another thing is, which is nice, if you take a charter, if you're going to go out for deep sea fishing, many of the places, if you pull up to a restaurant, they will prepare it for you.
Ah, good point. Yes, they will. Especially our friends over at Shooters down off of the Intercoastal Waterway. So yeah. So again, hopefully you all have found this interesting, informative. So if you do, we hope you'll consider subscribing and click the little bell so you get notified every time we drop a video.
Because we wouldn't want you to miss a video.
Exactly. So and until next time, thanks.
And thanks until next time, and we'll see you.